Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's adorable guest is Erica Ziel, who's a mom of three. She has a degree in health and human performance and is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. We talk about core rehab, breath work, strengthening your pelvic floor, slowing down, and releasing emotions. It's really awesome, you guys, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhige, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Hey everyone, this is Tracy, and I have a special announcement. In order for me to help more women age stronger, I have created a 90-day one-on-one coaching program. And the goal here is to teach women over 50 how to age stronger while burning fat and boosting energy without going hungry or living in the gym. If you'd like more information, please hit me up at tracy@highenergygirl.com or friend me on Facebook and send me a message. I have a goal of transforming 1,000 women in the next year, and I hope you are one of them. Hey, Erica, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy, for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Me too. You have such cute little dimples.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first and foremost, I am a busy mom of three kiddos, but I'm also, my background is exercise science, Pilates. I'm also an FDN practitioner, and I really love teaching women how to heal their bodies through movement, through intuition, and breath work. And I'm of the belief that we can absolutely heal anything about our body, especially if we believe it. And then we just have to learn the tools and techniques to help to get us there.
Cool. I love that. So what did you say? FDN?
Yes.
What's
It stands
that?
for Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner. So it's a mouthful.
Yeah. What is it?
So basically, it's a background in basically, holistic, natural, not medicine, but health really is what it is, right? So basically what that teaches is what I was doing on the movement side, where I always look at everything as a whole, right? We don't just, if we want to, strengthen our core, we're not just looking at our abs, right? Or we want to strengthen our booty. We're not just gonna, you know what I mean? We can't compartmentalize and just look at one part of the body. Well, it's the same from a holistic health perspective, right? So we have to look at nutrition and sleep and all the lifestyle pieces that go into it, along with looking at labs. So it's a big piece that we learn is, testing instead of guessing, which I see time and time again with clients. I've been there before myself, where we try all these different things, and sometimes they can help, but so many times when I see women struggling with health stuff, it's because we haven't really got to the root of it. So that's a really big thing that I do in everything, whether we're working on back pain, pelvic floor dysfunction, or I'm helping a woman with, hormone symptoms and gut stuff and all of that. Because I don't diagnose or anything like that. We really just look at all the pieces and, break it down and start to really heal the body from a fundamental, root level. And a lot of it goes back to our gut health, right? It doesn't matter really any topic we talk about. We're always going to go back to gut health. That's a big foundation piece that, I know you talk about that a lot too. It's like our gut is so important and everything stems from that in one way or another.
Yeah. I love that you just said that. It's funny because for some reason, I'm having a really hard time eating vegetables these days. I keep getting these horrible tummy aches. And so this week I'm like, okay, I'm going to really focus just on gut. So today it's like big old thing of bone broth for lunch. And, I have this other supplement I got from Bio Nutrition. I don't know if you know who they are.
I don't know. There's so many companies out there. I probably have seen their stuff, but yeah, there's so many amazing companies out there.
Yeah, they had a new product. I take their enzymes. And so, but I
Okay.
tried their new stuff. I'm just like, okay, I'm working on my gut because I have no idea why all of a sudden vegetables are just not doing me any good. So let's
Yeah.
go back to you. So you said gut health. First of all, what condition do you see the most common in women these days?
Well, I mean, from a symptom perspective, the number one symptom is fatigue, right? Women are tired, 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 tired. And I tend to work with a lot of moms, but not all moms. And women are just tired. They're burnt out. We are pushing ourselves to do too much, right? And, just to try to do it all. And then when we're doing that, we're eating too fast, we're eating on the go, we're not nourishing our body from a food perspective, but also from more of an energetic perspective as well. We're not getting that nourishment that our body really needs, because when we eat too fast, right, we're not digesting our food as well. So that's something, I don't know, Tracy, for you or other women listening, right? If you notice a shift, something that can be good is to like reflect on like, wow, have I been a little bit busier lately? Have I been a little bit more stressed? Has something gone on that's maybe triggered, in a sense, my digestion to like slow down and not actually work as optimally as possible? So like, I love talking about all those types of pieces. And, work with a lot of women who experience bloating a lot because of all the core training I talk about, pelvic floor, all of that. Like if we're constipated a lot, we're bloated all the time, like those are major symptoms that there's something going on with your gut and we need to address it. And so many times we kind of beat around the bush and do all these individual things that might help. But again, ultimately we're missing a deeper piece.
So what is your favorite type of lab work that you do? Is it blood work, stool testing, hair? I mean, what do you like to start with?
I kind of like to see a little bit of all of it just because I like to look at the whole picture, right? But at a minimum, the first one I usually always do have clients do is a GI stool test. It's a GI map. And so what that looks at is it looks at the bacterial makeup in your gut. It's showing, what is the balance of the good bacteria? Is there presence of, not so good bacteria? What does your immune function look like in your gut? What's inflammation markers look like, and different things like that. And it can really show a huge insight. And so many times it's really neat because the research is really in depth in this arena, where if I look at, a symptom, lots of symptoms from a client, and then I'm looking at her GI map, it is amazing the correlation that you can make of like, oh, well, we don't have enough good bacteria, or we've got overgrowth of certain bacterias, or different things like that. And you start to see, wow, this is why she feels the way that she does. So that's a big one. I do love Dutch tests, can be really good just to show hormones. I always think that it's a good piece to see. I also think that we need to have the stool test with it, because ultimately if something's going on with your hormones, there's something going on in your guts, right? And then there's the hair mineral analysis test, which is really neat to see from a mineral perspective, and how your cells are really functioning, right? So there's like all these pieces. I'm like, it's hard to pick just one, but it's interesting too, if we're not getting optimal cellular transport of nutrients in and out, we could be holding on to toxicity. We may not be, uptaking all the good nutrients we're actually eating and taking from supplements and things like that. And then I always think to see a good just blood panel of thyroid. I think that ladies, you got to be checking your thyroid every at least 6 months, if not 3 months, doing a regular iron panel. A lot of women are low iron, low ferritin, and don't know it. And all these things, it may not be one thing, like it may not be just your thyroid. It may not just be iron that is causing you to be tired. It could be a multitude of things. And we can't just go after a certain result from a lab either. Like that's something I'm really big on, is like, it's a piece of the puzzle, but we really have to look at lifestyle. You have to look at nutrition. We have to look at movement. I tend to get a lot of women in my world that are over exercisers because they want their body to be a certain way. They want to lose the weight, whatever it is. And they're actually overdoing it. And that actually can be contributing to the fatigue, right?
Indeed.
Or if you've had really high cortisol levels for a long time and didn't address that, then at some point your body, your brain tells your adrenals, okay, well, nothing changing. So we're going to stop pumping out cortisol. And then now you don't even have enough cortisol to hardly like make it through your day. So there's not just one piece of the puzzle. It's like, it's so all integrated. And that's one of the biggest things I love talking about, no matter kind of what we're talking about.
No, it's so true. I mean, it's like, if you think about how complex our bodies are and how automated so much of our function is, it's like, you can't just look at one piece,
No.
Remember, I had a client once who didn't want to do any cardio. She just wanted to train her biceps and her glutes.
Oh my.
I'm like, oh my God, you prima donna. Like, come on. But I like what you said about that, because I do agree. I used to be an over exerciser, and I remember training, like friends and stuff, and train for a marathon so we can lose, 5-10 pounds. You end up gaining weight because you're overtraining.
Oh yeah. I was there. I used to be a classic overtrainer in my early 20s. I was training for like a bikini competition where you actually still had to do agility stuff too. So to look good in a bikini, but then you actually had to perform physically. And I put on so much muscle, but I also put on so much fat, because that's what my body needed in order to keep up the torture I was putting it through, to work out 2 intense workouts a day. It was insane. It was madness. And I've been very good at spotting that in women ever since I personally put myself through that. And I'm definitely have moved into a place of the belief where less really can be more for our body. It's really work out smarter, not harder, right? Do the things that you enjoy, that leave you feeling good. And that's so much the foundations of what I teach through movement, because so many women end up with aches and pains and all these things that we kind of think we just have to like, oh, that's just natural because you're getting older, you've had a couple babies or whatever it is. And I'm always here to say, like, absolutely not. I've helped thousands of women to date to like live pain-free. And it's what lights me up and keeps me going. And I love talking about all this. It's super exciting, so that women realize, like, you don't have to suffer in pain and dysfunction and all of that. And sometimes it means you've got to shift your look on exercise, because I'm the first one to tell you to get moving every day, but we have to do it in a way that's nourishing for our body and not depleting.
So talk about that a little bit. I'd like to hear your perspective on what type of movement do you believe is more nourishing than depleting?
Yeah. So, well, one, it is going to vary a little bit from one woman to another, right? Everyone's bodies are a little bit different. But I will see in general, as women age, and I tend to work with a lot of moms, as moms, women have babies and they're just tired and they're depleted, that if they're then trying to get their body back, or down the road and we're trying to lose the weight and we're just really pushing ourselves to do intense working out, where we think like, oh, it's the long cardio, right? You mentioned the marathon running, like that long cardio. They think like, okay, I got to burn these calories that I'm eating. And it's not, the whole calorie in, calorie out thing does not hold true, because not all calories are created equal and not all exercise is created equal. So I like to get down to the root of, I mentioned the word cortisol before, right? So if we're doing exercise that maybe in the moment gives us that adrenaline rush and lift, where maybe we think it's energizing us, but our recovery is taking a lot longer than maybe it did before. We're just really sore, even though like we feel like we shouldn't be that sore, and we're tired, right? But we feel like we've got that mental state of like, gosh, but I just have to go do my hard workout. Otherwise, I'll gain weight, or whatever those stories are that we can tell ourselves. So I like to look at workouts as, and a lot of what I teach is very gentle. It's slower. And what I really get women to do is really connect with themselves and their body and use their breath, right? We cannot be correctly connected with our body or activate our deep core muscles, our pelvic floor, if we're not using our breath to facilitate that, right? And 99% of women that first come into my world and start core rehab, for example, and I start to introduce, breath to her, she's like, Erica, I can't breathe past my chest. And she's really restricted up here, because maybe she's been someone who's done a lot of high intensity working out for a long time, or not. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but she hasn't ever really slowed down enough to be like, oh, this is what my body is supposed to be doing as I'm going through the movement. So what I end up doing is I have women, I'm actually like, okay, I want you to actually stop your high intensity workouts for a period of time. And we're going to pull you back, and we're going to get you moving slower and smaller movements, really more focused on breath, visualization, because I'm really big on women visualizing what they want for their body, for their health, for their movement. And really learning how to move in a way that's really nourishing for their body, physically and emotionally. And then as we learn new techniques, she gets stronger, and then she slowly builds back up to do, say, her higher intensity exercise, but in a way that is much more where she has a stronger foundation. So she recognizes, gosh, I have to do as much to actually make it super effective. And that's what I'm all about, is teaching women how to move and how to work out so that what you're doing is super effective. Because I'm of the belief that 10 to 15 minutes a day can be enough for women when it's done the correct way. And sometimes, yes, eventually, maybe it is getting back into doing some HIIT training, but not every day. And you don't have to go run on a treadmill for an hour to get benefits, because I actually feel like that's super depleting. I'd rather see women do less, be more effective with it, pay attention to what their pelvic floor is doing, what their posture is, is their pelvis in the right position as they're moving through their squats, or are they doing squats that are actually leading to back pain and pelvic floor dysfunction and things like that? So it's all about working out smarter, not harder, kind of an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And I'm 56. So most of my clients range from like 45, 65, somewhere around there. Right. And for us, it's like a lot of mobility, and balance and flexibility and, things like that, because those are things that really leave us with age. And in order to function properly, they're super important, and to prevent injury. But I want to talk to you about the breath, because that is unique in that many people aren't, they're not aware. Like, I teach Pilates and yoga, so I get the belly breathing. And so talk a little bit about that and your visualization. Like, are you talking law of attraction type things? Or when you say visualizing, what are you speaking of exactly?
Okay, so I can use the example. Let's start with just focusing on breath for a minute. So it'd be a good example to work on breath and visualization at the same time. So as you're breathing in through your nose, I want you to just start to visualize your breath coming in through your nose and breathing down past your chest. Now, you don't want to force your breath. You want to just encourage it. So as you breathe in, just think about your breath going lower. So if you pay attention, like if you go to breathe in and you notice your shoulders going way up into your ears, then a piece you might want to think about is just like relaxing your shoulders. Just be relaxed through your shoulders. So breathing in through your nose. Now start to breathe down lower and breathe out to the sides of your rib cage. Now, you may not be able to do this in the beginning, but the sooner we can start to see and visualize like, oh, this is where we want our breath to go, it will happen faster. And if you're not really familiar with anatomy, maybe just pop on the internet and search, like rib cage and pelvis and, all those things. So you can kind of start to see where these things are. But then as you breathe in on the next one, start to visualize your breath going down into your back and into your low back. Now, again, not easy things to do, but the more we practice and the more that we visualize with our brain, the quicker we can actually start to make those connections. And then a last one is to visualize breathing in through your nose and visualize that breath going all the way down into your pelvis. So we can relax through our belly, but not so much that we slouch. Okay. If we're slouched, we cannot get good breath into our body. So posture is huge with all of this. So, which, as you know, as a yoga and Pilates instructor as well, but we want to grow tall to the top of our head, but have this element of like being able to relax a little bit through our body so that our breath can actually go all the way down into our pelvis and into our pelvic floor. Because a lot of times with core dysfunction, with back pain, with pelvic floor dysfunction, we're actually too tight. And women who have a history of intense working out, I find that they're really tight and they're restricted a lot, right? There's a lot of conversation that goes on and like, oh, I've got too weak of a pelvic floor. I don't actually find that to be the case until, I'm sure for some women, but I think that happens like later on in life. But 45 to 65 age, I still think we're still really tight and restricted through our body. And so by learning to breathe deeper into our body, and we're using our visualization, because the brain likes visuals of where we want our breath to go, it will happen quicker, even if it takes you a couple weeks to get it there, right? It may not happen overnight. So my best advice, ladies, is just you have to keep practice in doing that. And this is where doing different movements, gentle, slow movements, can help facilitate that breath into certain areas that maybe just sitting here is not always the best for encouraging that breath to go to certain areas. But when we start to move, or I like to use a small soft ball that I have, because it's a good tactile feedback to help your brain like tell your breath where to go. Gentle ball rolling as well for my students and clients, because I find that it speeds up a lot of things from a learning perspective, because a lot of it is body awareness, right? So that's where visualization is super powerful from that aspect. Does that help, Tracy?
Interesting. Yeah. It's totally interesting because I've never thought about it that way, because if you think about it, your lungs stop about here, right? So how are you actually breathing into your pelvis? So, you know what I mean? Like, how are you?
Oh yeah. So what it's doing is it's causing a relaxation response through your nervous system is really what it's doing, right? If we're always restricted through our pelvis and we don't learn actually how to relax, then we're missing a huge potential piece from a health perspective, from a mobility perspective, right? And so by working to breathe lower and breathe out into all areas, you'll activate your diaphragm better, right? Which then we also know is going to improve our, from the vagus nerve perspective to that relaxation response. I mean, you could do a visualization, visualizing breathing all the way down to your toes, which of course we know our breath doesn't go all the way down there, but just the element of the practice of that, all of a sudden you can just like relax a little bit more. We let go of stuff, because I find that there's so much we just hang on to, right? And women who tend to work out really hard and we're just like go-getters, right? We hold on to stuff. We just like shove it inside. We're like, we don't want to deal with it. Keep going forward, which is great to a point maybe, but it can come back to kind of, bite us in the ass, because what happens is then we hold on to that stuff. And since I do so much of teaching women about their pelvis, right, that we hold a lot of emotion there. If you've had I don't like to talk and go deep into traumas or things like that, but I'll bring it up because it's something that sometimes, even if it was a birth, right? Sometimes it's as simple as, maybe a birth of one of your children didn't go as planned, or a woman ended up having a C-section instead of a vaginal birth, or whatever it is. And in their mind, it was like, oh gosh, it did not go all as planned. And it was a big stressor for her, right? But she never, maybe you didn't even realize it because we haven't brought it up before. So sometimes like we think of, oh, it has to be something really big and traumatic. It doesn't. Sometimes it's little things that we've hung on to. And so when we can start to recognize like, oh, that maybe that's what that was, or even if we don't know what it is, I'm not a fan of teaching people like women, they have to figure out what it is we're holding on to. Just if you're like ready to let go of stuff and you're like, wow, I feel really, like it's hard for me to breathe really deep. Okay, well, then let's work on letting go. Maybe you just need to go take a good cry in the shower tonight. Like, I don't know. Sometimes we just don't allow ourselves to process those emotions. And we can hold on to that stuff. And that can really work against us when it is coming to, improving our mobility and all of that. So it sounds kind of interesting. It's not a mainstream conversation, but I find it to be very, very helpful for my students and clients when we start to address it. And it doesn't have to be on some deep level necessarily. You can go as deep as you want, but many times just the awareness of, gosh, wow, yeah, I have really not allowed myself to process a lot. That can be what's contributing to back pain. There's the physical element of pain and dysfunction, but if we only address the physical, it's kind of like how we opened this whole conversation, right? We only address the physical, we're missing something else, right? Because our nutrition matters, our gut health matters, our emotional health matters. All of these pieces play a role. It's never just one.
Yeah. And it's on an energetic perspective, like you said, like the emotions that are being trapped, that are messing up with the communication of our energetic self, which is the deepest. And, holding on to emotions, do you find like hip openers and stuff can help with that as well?
Yeah. I mean, when I start women, we're always starting with the pelvis. Always start with the pelvis, no matter what kind of pain she has or doesn't have, right? We always are going to start with the pelvis, because we get so locked in our pelvis. And if we think about it too, I do a lot of fascial training and teaching women how to be more fascially fluid and fascially strong. And if we think about our pelvis, right, it's really held together by fascia. It's not bones. We have all these bones that kind of come together, but fascia holds on to emotion, right? There's research now coming out to some degrees to kind of help verify that, right? So it's really exciting to me. I love this stuff when we start to see like, wow, okay, let's actually learn to let go. And breath is huge. We have to learn to tap into that breath, but we can't force it. This is the biggest thing. Like so many times we all want results yesterday. We want the back pain to go away yesterday. We want to get more flexible, like whatever it is, right? We want it yesterday. But the best advice I have is when we actually learn to like, kind of the word surrender comes up a little bit, is like, we just learn to let go and surrender to ourselves. Like, hey, I'm here to learn more about my body. So I can't rush that. We can't rush the learning journey that we're all on. And we're never too old to learn more about our body. I hear all the time from women with what I teach. She's just like, oh my gosh, how have I gone this long in my life and never really learned how to properly move my body, how to properly activate my pelvic floor and my deep core muscles, right? But you're never too old to learn more about your body and more about movement, because as we all are aging, right, mobility is super correlated to our overall health. And so when we can just embrace like, hey, if you're ready to learn more about your body, we have to have this little element of like learning to surrender and learning to learn or be open to learning new ways.
Yeah, that's true. Because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting, right?
Exactly.
So what does a day in your life look like? Like, what are your health practices?
Well, I have 3 kids, so I spend way too much time driving in my car. Not ideal.
How old are they? How old are they, Erica?
My youngest just turned 10. So we're out of the single digits, which is crazy to me. So 10, 12, and my oldest will be 15 this weekend. So yeah, she has a school permit and driving and everything. So it's a little crazy. So yeah, so
enjoy.
Yes, I am. It goes too fast. It really does. But It's good. So some of the key things I do, I will say when I'm driving a lot, and for all you ladies listening, posture is huge. You have to sit up correctly in your car, or it really can jack up your entire body when you drive as much as I do. So it's a big one that I do. I try in the morning to fast. Essentially, I don't eat breakfast till typically 9 is usually my earliest. Sometimes I'll make it almost to like lunchtime because I'll get going and on work and I feel really good. And I just drink a lot of water. And sometimes I drink a mushroom coffee, in the morning, my Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee. I know people are always like, ooh, that sounds gross, but it works really well for me.
Can I ask you about that? Okay.
Yeah.
So does it taste like coffee?
It does, but don't expect it to taste like exactly like what you think of coffee. I say it just is like an earthy coffee. That makes, because it's got the mushrooms in it, right? I like the lion's mane. I usually want the lion's mane, because lion's mane I think has a little bit of a like natural kind of almost sweetness flavor to it, so it's not as drastic as maybe some of the others. But I actually switched over to that when I was healing from mold toxicity, like, gosh, 3 years ago now. And I've just stuck with it because so much of the other coffees would give me like instant brain fog. I think because, coffee can notoriously be moldy, right? Depending on the source of it. So, yeah, it's been amazing for me and, it works. So I'm like, if it works, I'm not gonna switch back.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I wasn't feeling well on Saturday, like exhausted, and I always have good energy, like every day, all day. And you know what? It could have been the coffee. I had a coffee that I don't normally have. I really like bulletproof coffee.
Yeah.
But I had a coffee, and you know what? That was probably it. Anyway, okay, so go
Could
ahead.
be. Oh.
You have your mushroom coffee, and then what?
And then let's see, I take my supplements or with my food. I don't typically take them on empty stomach unless it's my liposomal vitamin C, which I love. And then lunch, lunch varies. I'm not going to lie. I'm not the best at always being super organized with a lunch because like I have this limited window of time from when I drop the kids off to have to go pick my son does competitive gymnastics. So he's only dual enrolled. So I have to pick him up at, way earlier in the school day. And so I'm like, I have this window of opportunity. So sometimes my lunch is super healthy. Today it was because I made a beet salad yesterday. So I was like, oh, great, leftovers for the next couple lunches. And then some days it's more of like a put together. It's a smoothie or it's, a coconut yogurt or, a grain-free granola, like something like that. That's a little bit quicker. But dinners are we're really, really big on good, solid, healthy dinners. Like tonight we've got just a chicken vegetable soup going that I made sure my daughter's like, make a big pot, mom, so I can have it for lunch the next day and for like 2 nights, So that's the meal plan for tonight. And then I'm really big on an evening routine because my big belief to have good sleep is actually you need to have a really good evening routine. Everyone talks about morning routines, which are fine and great. But I'm of the belief that we have to have a really solid evening routine so we can get good sleep, so we can be energetic, right, the next day to do our morning routine. And so my husband and I for years now have been doing, drink the lavender chamomile tea before bed, try to minimize screens and all of that. I actually have a red on my phone. If I need to look at it, I have like a red kind of light. I don't know even how I set it up, but somehow figured it out. So that way, if I do have to look at something and all of that, it's like, oh, it's not gonna, wake me up. And we have the True Dark. I don't know if you know of the True Dark light bulbs, but
Oh no,
I love them. And we have them in all of our bedrooms. They have to go on a side lamp. But those have been a game changer for like my entire family because it knocks the blue light, but there's different settings. So you can have a brighter light that doesn't have all that blue light so my kids can read. And it also has a red setting. So like if they need to get up in the middle of the night, right, or something, which rarely happens anymore because they're older, but then you can have it on a red setting. You can adjust like the settings. Those are like, I love those light bulbs. Those have been an absolute game changer from a sleep perspective in our house. And then, I'm a big nature walker person.
Me too.
So
Me too.
I love getting out in nature. It's gotten cold again today. I was going to go. I'm like, no, it's too cold outside, but I may have to just bundle up and make myself go. But yeah, I'm more of like a middle of the day workout person. I'm not, which is weird. I think people think, that I should be a morning workout person. I'm just not. But sometimes I do. So I'm I work out sporadically. Like sometimes it's right in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's after, my youngest gets home from school and she'll come downstairs in my little at-home Pilates studio and she has her little exercises she does and I'll do mine. And, so I'm a little more flexible with that. I think sometimes for me, because I teach movement, it's like, I'm just more flexible with that.
Where do you live?
I'm in Iowa.
Oh, okay. So when you said cold, that you mean cold.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah,
cold today. I was walking my dogs. It was 47 and that is cold.
Yeah, I know wind chill today. I think it's like we're in the single digits. So yeah, which I can do that. So I will, for any of you ladies listening that live in colder areas. So we moved back to the Midwest from Southern California 6 years ago. So it was a big shift for me, right? To come from Southern California back. And I was like, okay, I have to work to embrace the cold weather, right? Because it was painful for me. And I think part of it was I needed to detox. So that was the whole other conversation. But I also changed my perspective and I was like, you know what? I'm such a nature person. I have to get outside. So if it's literally above 0 degrees, I will just bundle up, wear my layers, be super bundled up, and I will get my butt out there and walk on the trails. So I don't do it all the time when it's super cold, but it has helped me a lot. Or if we get good snow, I'll do like snowshoeing and stuff like that, just to change it up. Last winter was perfect for snowshoeing. I'm hoping that as the weather stays colder, that we'll actually get some snow, because snowshoeing is a really good workout.
I bet. I live in NorCal, but we don't have snow, but yeah, it sounds fun. I'm like you. I love being outside, getting the energy, absorbing just like everything outside, We mountain bike and hike and all that. So that's really cool. But so when you see clients, are they mostly online? Because you said you have a Pilates studio at home.
I do both. I mean, most of what I teach now is all through my online programs because they're really dialed in. I'm like, if you just want to learn the techniques or if you're dealing with aches and pains. But I do work with some clients at my house. I do some online, but it's mostly all through online programs that I've worked to create over the last many years. So I can help more women essentially, right? I'm only one person. You know how that is. We can only help so many women one-on-one. So doing it in a group setting and all of that is great. And we offer coaching in them, which I love to do so that I get to know the women more, even though it's me teaching many women, but we still offer the group coaching support as well. So they still get access to me.
What's your favorite workout? Is your favorite workout Pilates? What do you love to teach and do yourself?
I do love Pilates. I love it, especially on equipment. I don't teach it as much because it's like all my workouts I do online do not involve the equipment just because it's hard for women to access it. So I take what I teach on equipment and mat and the weight training and all of this stuff and teach it in my format that requires little minimal equipment. But I love teaching on the equipment. I love doing workouts on the equipment. But yeah, I don't know. And I'm someone who likes to change it up sometimes too. So it's kind of, I stay open to the day that I like what I'm feeling inspired to do or what I haven't done for a while and be like, okay, you got to bring out the kettlebells, right? If I haven't done kettlebells in a while and stuff like that. So I just like to offer up and create some variety for myself, which I think is good for all of us too.
Mm-hmm. I do CrossFit right now and it's always different. Like they're always doing something different, but I am one that honors the day off, or the days off. Because so many people, I believe, they overtrain in this mindset to achieve this ideal body. But then how long does that ideal body last? You know, it's like I say I train because I like to move and I want to stay injury free. So that's why things like Pilates and yoga, I love like Yin Yoga. Have you done that?
I think so. I don't do as much yoga as I do Pilates, but I do like yoga.
Try Yin Yoga. It's
Okay.
really fun to do. You can find YouTube videos, I'm sure, but what I like about it is you basically hold the posture. It's like it's about getting into the joint, whether it's the hip or the knee or the back or something. And then you hold it between 3 and 5 minutes. So you kind of create this tourniquet effect. And then when you release, all this blood just rushes to. So you're working your mind, your breath, because you're holding for a long time, and you're supposed to find that point of uncomfortableness and then work through it with your breath work and your mind. So I think you'd really actually like it based on.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of that. Yes. Yeah. Which is great. I love it. And you know what, when you hold poses, it gives your body time to slowly adjust and work in to them. And you create more space around your hip capsules and all that. We have wild turkeys. Holy crap. We have like a dozen wild turkeys running through my backyard right now.
Aw. That's funny. They're like, I survived Thanksgiving.
I was like, all of a sudden I was like, wait, what is that thing out there? And I'm like, there's that's crazy. I've never seen wild turkeys. My husband would be like thrilled right now because he wants turkeys in his backyard. And I'm like, well, you're missing it right now.
Oh, you got to take a picture. Show him. That's awesome.
Funny.
What time zone are you guys?
Central.
Okay. Wow.
It's like 3 here.
Farther away than I thought. So how can the listeners find you, Erica? Like if they want to check out your programs that you offer online or your one-on-one coaching, how can they find you?
So you can find everything on my website, ericaziel.com. My last name is spelled Ziel. And Instagram, Facebook, it's all the same. So yeah, reach out to me with questions. I always love having conversations with new ladies. So I'm here to help support and guide. And I always say, if I don't have the answer, I love helping connect women with, in the right direction. So thank you so much, Tracy.
Oh, you are so adorable. It was really fun chatting with you. I love your energy too. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. For complete show notes, head on over to highenergygirl.com/show. And if you haven't already, we love when you give us rating reviews over on iTunes. It helps other people find the messages of our amazing guests so that they can age stronger and healthier instead of sicker and weaker. All right, you guys, make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guests specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.